record low TV ratings, randomly firing the second and third most powerful people in the company, the share price dropping to its lowest level in years, the XFL relaunch set to lose up to $300 million before it makes a single dime back, and declining house show attendance. WWE was having a bad time of it even before the world started to end. Since then, we've seen even lower record TV ratings for Raw and SmackDown, WWE release or furlough a reported 40% of its staff, file for bankruptcy for the XFL, and show attendance declining almost to zero, with WrestleMania 36's live audience entirely consisting of Titus O'Neil. Compulsory reminder, Titus O'Neil once kissed his son on the lips. And now, on top of the former commissioner of the XFL, Oliver All Out of Luck, suing Vince McMahon personally for wrongful termination, WWE has now been hit with multiple class action lawsuits on behalf of its own shareholders, which includes one naming McMahon, Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, kayfabe still real to me legal proceedings, Stephanie McMahon, Vince's previously let go right-hand man George Barrios, and his replacement, The Chronicles of Frank Riddick 2. The lawsuits came from multiple directions, being filed by 4 different companies: the Gross Law Firm, law, Levy and Korsinski, Glancy, Prongay and Murray, and Kessler, Topaz, Meltzer and Sheck. Dave? And read, a class action has commenced on behalf of certain shareholders in World Wrestling Entertainment Incorporated. The complaint alleges that World Wrestling Entertainment Incorporated violated federal securities laws by issuing materially false and/or misleading information and/or failing to disclose material information. Each suit then lists off various different examples, but they all boil down to the same underlying allegation: that WWE and its top executives had knowingly misled its shareholders, that McMahon would boost the value of WWE stock by touting its big money deal with Saudi Arabia, even though Vince and top management knew the relationship was in serious trouble. Those announcements were followed by senior executives in WWE selling more than $282 million in their personally held stock at these inflated prices. The lawsuits effectively accuse the company of insider trading. While there are a lot of claims in the various suits' 44 pages, including but not limited to breach of duties, waste of corporate assets, unjust enrichment, making false statements, and misleading the investing public regarding WWE's business and prospects, some of the more interesting and serious claims pertain to WWE's relationship with Saudi Arabia, which the suit brings under very close scrutiny. The Glancy, Prongay and Murray suit alleges WWE injured investors when the company argued last April's declining year-on-year revenue was because of the absence of certain superstars, where Vince essentially blamed falling TV ratings on Roman Reigns being out with his second bout with leukemia. The lawsuit alleges this was false and misleading, though, pointing out several analysts connected the falling revenue to difficulties securing a media rights deal for the Middle East and North Africa region with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And WWE's incredibly controversial relationship with the country doesn't get left at that. The suit claims WWE's strained relationship with Saudi Arabia should have been made more transparent to its shareholders, laying out the awkward chain of events. WWE were experiencing rising tension with the Saudi government and a breakdown in negotiations over a renewed broadcasting distribution deal. The Saudi government and its affiliates have failed to make millions of dollars in payments owed to WWE. The Saudi Arabia-owned Orbit Showcase Network had terminated the broadcast of WWE programming in the first quarter of 2019, despite a contractual obligation to continue such broadcasts, and this cancellation was symptomatic of a deterioration in the business relationship between the parties. The OSN had rebuffed efforts to renew a distribution rights agreement on terms acceptable to WWE, and such renewal was unlikely to occur in 2019 if ever. WWE did not have the ability to expand its operations in the Middle East or within Saudi Arabia as had been represented to investors, and as a result, defendants' public statements were materially false and/or misleading at all relevant times. The Kessler, Topaz, Meltzer and Czech lawsuit adds, by at least early 2019, tensions in the relationship between WWE and the Saudi government have reached a breaking point, citing that the Saudis refused to make millions of dollars in payments owed to WWE. But rather than tell shareholders about the behind-the-scenes turmoil, WWE continued to bolster its relationship with Saudi Arabia, specifically mentioning last October's news reports about how the Saudi government was effectively holding a number of WWE wrestlers hostage in retaliation for WWE's decision to delay a live broadcast of Crown Jewel until the Saudis made tens of millions of dollars in past due payments. WWE have denied this was the case, and that the wrestlers stuck on the runway was due to mechanical issues with the plane. Following this news in October, WWE's share price plummeted. WWE has been hit by similar lawsuits in the past and has always emerged relatively unscathed. What do you think about the accusations against WWE? Let me know in the comments, where I'll also be claiming to be a law expert to people from our quarantine. Quarantine, where days merge into one another, making it impossible to tell the passage of time. But because we're wrestling fans, we know what time it is, based on WWE's pay-per-view calendar or big news stories. So happy 2-week anniversary since Black Wednesday, everyone! God, that's the worst holiday ever. 2 weeks ago, WWE released or furloughed a reported 40% of their staff, including several on-screen names like Rusev, Eric Rowan, Sarah Logan, and Drake Maverick. A few of those fired had actually previously requested to get out of their contracts, like the released before it was cool The Revival, who had wanted out since January 2019 when AEW was officially launched. WWE were keeping hold of talent for as long as they could, though, to stop them from jumping ship to the opposition. But now there's not really any way to properly do that in the Steve Corino crisis. They're finally, apparently, now listening to those release requests. The very reliable WrestleVotes has tweeted, hearing from a few different sources that WWE is willing to grant a release to just about anyone who requests one. Basically, if a talent wants out, they can go. Will be interesting to see if anyone really does want out, especially during these uncertain times. Insert name of wrestler with bad booking to AEW confirmed. Thanks for your support on Patreon, Wonderwall Brian Gallagher. That last part of the tweet is key, however. In our exclusive interview with Mike Kanellis, who's reverted to his previous ring name Mike Bennett, he told Louis Dangoor that while he was unhappy with his position in WWE, where he publicly asked for his release on the Scotia Banks last October, he had since smoothed things out and actually wanted to keep his job, particularly as there is no work out there for wrestlers at the moment due to Steve Corino shutting down all shows. But despite that, and his wife Maria never asking for her release, WWE let them both go anyway. That would imply that all those who reportedly asked for their releases last year had now been let go by WWE as part of 2 Wednesdays ago, which we now know includes The Revival, Kanellis, Sin Cara Dos and Brody Lee. But WWE's cutting weight isn't helping their sinking TV ship, as Monday's Raw drew a non-holiday record low rating of 1.82 million. This is dangerously close to the all-time worst rating ever for Raw, set on Christmas Day 2018, which did 1.78 million viewers. The viewership decline doesn't show any sign of stopping, as WWE are actually putting on really good TV right now, and as of this Friday, it won't even be live anymore. This week's SmackDown, as well as the Go Home show for Money in the Bank, are reportedly also in the bank, with those episodes, next week's Go Home edition of Raw, and the next 2 episodes of NXT all being pre-recorded over the weekend. In these tough times, we need heroes. Paige here. Not now, Paige! Oh, right, you're totally a hero today. The former SmackDown general manager asked fans how they were doing during these hard times, where several replied that they were in a bad way financially. So being the lovely person she is, here's a photo of her with Luke from a time when strangers could be this close together. Paige here asked for the Venmo details. payment system, not a Spider-Man baddie, and sent them money to buy groceries, which WWE fan Jess Malone did, posting a picture of her with loads of food fit for both human and pet consumption. Paige is still working for WWE on their totally not biased and always hypercritical show WWE Backstage on FS1, which has been filmed from people's homes during Steve Corino. But the production change has caused difficulties, lagging internet connections, messy kitchen backdrops, and random appearances from AEW champion Jon Moxley. Moxley briefly jumped behind his real-life wife and Backstage host Renee Young with their dog during one segment for a joke, but according to Mox himself in an interview with PW Insider, he accidentally got her heat backstage for Backstage. Replying on whether WWE were annoyed by his appearance, short answer is yes, and declining to go into further detail. Renee Young to AEW confirmed. This is the first time we've heard that Mox working for the competition has negatively affected Young in WWE, previously telling Talk Is Jericho that things between Renee and WWE have been fine since he left last year. WWE and AEW aren't the only wrestling promotions being affected by travel restrictions right now. Impact Wrestling's world champion Tessa Blanchard couldn't make their Rebellion show because of Steve Corino either. She was supposed to defend her title against Michael Elgin and Eddie Edwards. But because her and Edwards couldn't make it either, Impact not only crowned a new champion, they brought back an old belt in the process. Moose beat both Elgin and Hernandez to become the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. This will presumably lead to an undisputed clash between him and the World Champion in the future. WrestleTalk Pledgehammers on Patreon announcement. Our latest Patreon exclusive podcast is up now, with the monthly After Dark show for $10 and above backers. In it, Luke, Laurie and Adam talk about their favourite James Bond movies, board games, Luke's controversial dislike of Lord of the Rings, Adam's even more controversial dislike of The Godfather and 2001: A Space Odyssey, and they play a special bonus game of what's in Adam's kitchen drawers. Click the link in the video description below now to support us on Patreon and get access to that and loads of exclusive content. And a major WWE release has been confirmed. Click the video on the right to find out who and how would Adam Blampied fantasy book Roman Reigns. Find out in his brand new video on Parts Unknown by clicking the video below that. I've been Ollie Davis, and that was wrestling.